Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohout, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Steven Strumos, a personal trainer, pain management specialist, and strength coach based in Ontario. Through Strumos Fitness, he guides clients to overcome injuries like disc herniations, drawing from his own recovery from chronic pain to build lasting strength and resilience via targeted online and in-person programs. With that being said, Steven, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you on the podcast. Let's dive into the conversation. What I love to do with every single one of my guests is a bit of traveling back in time, right? So before you even had your practice, your company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the project?
Yeah, going way back, I was one of the lucky ones that I got into this pretty much right out of school. So I knew I wanted to be in some sort of health field. Like I took kinesiology and health science in school. I know I liked being active and on my feet, and who knew that I didn't want to be in a desk job or anything, but I wasn't always quite sure of how I wanted to go about it. But then through school and just like learning about exercise and movement and what it had done for me, then I really took it to the next stage. So I was just doing, like odd jobs here and there to get myself through school. But then right out of school, I was able to like get my personal training certifications, and I started at an LA Fitness, so a big box commercial gym. Um, but even still at that point, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with it. I liked working with people. I liked, helping make them healthier. But it wasn't until I dealt with my injury that I got into the specialty that I did. I had a really bad disc herniation, lower back injury, sciatica, everything that went along with it. And it's essentially crippled me in my early 20s. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm 80, 90 years old and I can
Wow.
barely do anything. And I, did what most people do. You go see doctors, you go see physios, chiropractors, anyone to help you get through it. And to put it in the nicest way possible, I got some pretty subpar care with that. And I found out that this is just the cookie cutter way that they deal with back pain. They tell you to stretch, they tell you to, they'll take some pain pills, put on a heating pad, ice packs, things like that. Let's go crack your back from a chiropractor. And then they kind of send you on your way. And I've been doing this for months and months and realized like it just wasn't getting better. And most of the time I was advised to what to avoid. Don't do this, don't move your spine this way, don't do this, don't do that. And I found it very limiting. And I'm like, okay, there's something missing here. There's a gap
Mhm.
that people are falling through, and I feel like I'm falling through that that crack. And so I started doing my own research about the spine, about the lower back, about disc herniations and recovery. And I found out a lot of very interesting things that went counter to the treatment that I was receiving and the advice that I was being given. A lot of it was to like actually get the spine moving, get it stronger. It's not just about having a stronger core, but like actually rounding your back, going into bad posture positions, because it actually helps your spine get stronger and adapt to those positions because you inevitably have to get into them. Imagine trying to tie your shoe with a completely flat back. It's like it's near impossible, right? And so
Mhm.
I went down that rabbit hole and started to feel better, like almost instantaneously. And so the months went by, and all of a sudden I had no back pain at all. So I'm like, huh, okay. So like I'm working with people, and the odd client has pain here and there, but when you're working in an LA Fitness or any big box commercial gym, they just kind of hand you people of all types and just like, okay, here, just help them with whatever their goals are. And so I wasn't able to specialize in what I now wanted to specialize in, which was pain management and rehab, because I saw what the proper type of training and rehab could do. And so I'm like, okay, after about a year, I left and started my business, which is Strumos Fitness now. And I ended up, like really just focusing in on that type of clientele, like not like fishing in the big ocean where all the other trainers are like lose weight, build muscle, all of that fun stuff. I'm like, okay, we're gonna really, really burrow into combining, your typical personal training and coaching experience and what you should be getting from a physio and kind of putting them together. And that's the way that I like to describe myself, where it's like it's coaching, it's personal training, but in the essence of working on rehab. And so I've used that basis to kind of build myself up into where I am today.
Yeah. It's beautiful because it seems like in a way you were pretty much destined to be in this industry. Like you were very clear, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna end up. But by you literally going through the issues yourself, you basically had the opportunity to really niche down and get very, very clear on who is the type of person that I want to help. Which is beautiful. So I'm pretty sure that this just makes you a better coach just by knowing what those clients are going through and relating on a deeper level. So good for you, man. Good for you. Beautiful journey.
Appreciate it.
Now, Stephen, let's talk about where this journey got you overall and what the Strumos Fitness business really looks like today. In this part of the podcast, my goal is to really get the audience and the listeners understand, first of all, who it is exactly that you're trying to help right now, which you already gave us a little sneak peek into it. But also, what are the core offers that you've structured for your programs or whatever the structure is, how it works for the clients, and basically understand the client journey.
For sure. Yeah. So, my in terms of the people that I work with, it's largely people over 30 that are in pain is the very, very general way to place it. But my ultimate specialty is people that are dealing with lower back pain. Specifically, I deal with all different types of issues, but because of my own journey and dealing with it myself, that's the topic that I'm have the most expertise in. And so, and the over 30 is more so because people that tend to be younger don't have these chronic issues yet. Sometimes they build up to that point, and I actually do have some clients that are younger than that, but the large majority are the older population, people that have, had things build up over time, and essentially not have them addressed. So that's really where I've narrowed that down, those people that do fall through the cracks, as I mentioned before. And in terms of the client journey, and the offers that I have, I essentially have like one offer. Like I coach people the same, no matter what. But obviously I have a gym space that I own here in Ontario, but I also work with people online. Essentially the way it works is like journey from start to finish is whenever I consult with somebody, get the health history, get all the information that I need to see if I can help them in the first place. Then from there, it's usually a full-on assessment of them, movement assessment to see like, okay, what hurts, what doesn't. Let's figure out what we can do, not what we can't do. From there, it's an onboarding process of there's an app system that I use to deliver programs to people, whether they are in person or online, so they have access to up their entire rehab program in the palm of their hand whenever they need it. And essentially from there, I like to stress with clients that the program itself isn't as important as the communication that happens along the way. So I find like support and guidance the biggest part of rehab, especially because you could have a great program, but with pain especially, you need these little adjustments along the way. You need to be constantly monitoring what feels good and what doesn't, because something could feel good one day, you could wake up with a flare up of some kind, and you need to be able to adjust on the fly. So there's check-ins I do with clients every week, but at the same time, I have these periods of time where I open up my time for people to just be like, okay, here, we need to book a call. We need to jump on something. We need to go through maybe more of assessments, a little bit more one-on-one time. So that's where I try to keep my circle of clientele actually relatively small, but just deliver like as much value and service as I possibly can to those people so that they don't feel left behind. Because I feel like, again, going back to the example of those people falling through the cracks and the way that we typically treat things like back pain is like you go book an assessment or you book an appointment with a physio, they rush through and see you for like 15 minutes and then they kind of send you on your way and you're on your own. So the way I try to bridge that gap is regardless of whether I see somebody in person for an appointment or they're strictly online, is I always want to keep those lines of communication open. So it's like you've always got the coach in your pocket ready to help you through anything that you need to. If I wake up feeling not so good in a particular day, you've got somebody there. You don't have to wait 3 weeks to get an appointment with somebody else and jump in. So client care is a really big focus for me because I know what it's like to be in pain and feel alone. So I'm trying to eliminate all of that as much as possible. And so from those systems, it's really the client care and the programming and the progress all kind of work themselves out. Like everything has been
Mhm.
systematized to a point where it kind of runs itself in a way where like people know how they can reach me. The programs are always updated as on a weekly basis as necessary, continue to progress things, open to questions and comments, and we just continue to adjust and get ourselves on the right path from there.
Good, but definitely no cookie cutter approaches here.
No,
I love
yeah, because
that.
even with somebody with back pain, like what exercise worked for me may not work for the next person. So you really have to break it down. Even if you have the exact same condition, pain is a little funny in that way. So you have to be individual. There's no other way around it as far as I see it.
Yeah, but I love it. This is basically a combination of several different aspects, not just you basically coming up like, okay, this is going to be the best exercise for you. So let's check it out. We're going to monitor what it does to your body. But also there's a huge part of education, right? Just so that
Yeah.
the client truly understand what's going on behind the scenes, as we say. But love it. What would you say is like the average duration of a client working with you, and what is also like the frequency of really hopping on those one-on-one calls?
Mhm. Yeah, so the initial offer I have with people is 12 weeks because that's usually a good foundation building time. The large majority of people, like over 90%, end up staying past that and go into like 6 and 12 month options from that. My longest serving client, actually, funnily enough, is the first guy that I ever worked with at LA Fitness in that first shop. He's still with me today, so it's almost 10 years now
Oh,
that I've been
wow.
working with this one guy. And so the average stay of clients is like it goes into the years, like his people just they feel so much better and they understand the benefits of not just getting rid of pain, but of building up a lot of strength and being able to just feel better, functionally free and able to do what they want. And so they just want to keep going, even if their pain is gone. It's like, okay, let's take it to the next stage. Now I want to run a marathon. Now I want to be able to deadlift 300 pounds. I want to be able to do this and that. So it kind of
Yeah.
takes it to the next stage from there.
Yeah, I feel like after that mediocre experience that a lot of people get through, like the traditional healthcare systems, when they get help from somebody like you and they get rid of the pain, now it's just a question of like, what am I gonna do to for the pain never to come back, right? So,
Exactly.
100% get that. Beautiful. Now, Stephen, if you're open to this, what I would love to do is also talk about the back end side of the business. You already know this, but on Founders Future, if it is regarding sales, marketing, operations, it's a good business stuff. So we want to talk about it, right? And we all know that in order to succeed with this kind of company, having a good client acquisition system in place is the number one priority. So
Mhm.
I want to know what is it that you currently do on the front of marketing and maybe specifically lead generation to make all of this happen in the first place?
For sure. Yeah, I usually try to keep things very simple because I think, especially with sales and marketing, you could really go down the rabbit hole and make things complex way more than they need to be. So I break it down into to two aspects. It's first, like, do a good job with the people that you have. And the second is to make sure everybody knows about it, right? So it's not just about, really helping people. If nobody else knows what you do or who you help, then it's like, well, I lose the ability to help more people at that point. So the main ways I reach out, like my business primarily is built off of like referral and word of mouth. Like 95% of my people come through that way
Wow.
from already existing clientele. And so from a systems perspective and marketing perspective, it's more so just continuously asking for referrals. There's the way I structure it over the course of a year is there are a few specific times, usually 2 or 3 times a year, where I overtly ask or open up slots for clientele. I say, hey, I'm looking for 5 people that have this problem. And then, I have my clients share that out. And those are times usually where I bring in clientele. Um, so marketing wise from them, like usually the referrals are the biggest source from there. Outside of that, I post a lot of content on social media as well. Both Instagram and LinkedIn are probably the two main avenues that I have. I would say I emphasize that much less than I used to. It was one of those, crazes before where everyone's like, oh, you got to just constantly post, post, post. But what I found was the amount of work versus the rate of return was extremely low. Like I said, I have like 95% coming from word of mouth, maybe 5 to 10% coming from those, let's call it less organic sources coming in. So from a
Mhm.
business perspective, it's like, well, it's an easy choice of where to focus, your efforts and actions on. So those are the main two ways that I go about things, just from already existing clientele and from, posting content, like writing blogs. I have an email list as well, just getting the word out there, trying to help educate people and let them know like what I do. Here's some tips you can, work on your own. And if you'd like some extra help, here's how you can reach me and then, open up conversation from there.
Yeah, I love this. Now it's quite beautiful to see that you've managed to build it up like 90 or 95% of those based on referrals, which is I mean, if that's not a sign that you're doing something absolutely excellently, then I don't know what is. But at the same time, whenever I get into this conversation about organic and especially word of mouth and referrals, there's typically a lot of frustration when it comes to the
Yes.
inconsistency of those sources, right? You can have a good month, a great month, you can have a strain of bad months. So I mean, compared to some other strategies, for example, paid ads on different social platforms, it might be very inconsistent. I guess my question is, what is your perspective on the inconsistency? And then also, how do you deal with it? What have you tried?
Right. Yeah, like I've been through those times myself too, where I'm just like, man, like lead generation is really difficult. Like I'm just not, talk getting in front of a lot of other people. And I think it was because I was focusing on what I felt I needed to focus on or what other people or social media has you believe that you need to focus on. And that's where it was like a quantity over quality approach, like the exact opposite of what I'm doing now, where it's just you're just kind of like blind reaching out to people and like just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, hoping that it would stick, as opposed to like actually finding meaningful conversations, maybe less of them, but higher quality and more likely to be a warmer or hotter lead. And so it's more so about just talking to people, like not focusing so much on like, oh, I made all these posts. Why aren't people reaching out to me? It's like, no, it doesn't really
Hmm.
work like that. It requires a more personal touch, like especially like online coaching is a really big thing now, especially in the fitness industry. But with that, and even with the onset of like AI and all these other things, things are becoming less and less personal and and more like everyone's trying to sell you something. It's very advertising like, and so people tend to like recoil away from that a little bit now. But when you see like somebody that seems to genuinely care and they're trying to actually forge a meaningful connection with you, they're way more likely to jump on that bandwagon. So it's ironic. What I found is that, as online coaching has become more popular, my in-person business has really scaled up in that way. It's almost like it's becoming the market inefficiency now where everyone's online. So like here's some other more like personal one-on-one times that work better. So it's in terms of like challenges, like I've had it before where it's like, oh, I'm trying to, DM 100 people on Instagram every week or something like that. And it was just kind of a blind, let's hope it works type of strategy. And what I found was like, man, I'm spending so much time on this. I may be getting like a 5% like response rate and then hoping that book a call and all that stuff. So it was that type of strategy I find just wasn't worth it and relying so much on social media that way. When meanwhile, when you actually look at the numbers and even at the time, I'm like, most of my business comes from referrals and people that I already talked to. So why don't I leverage those connections and have more quality conversations as opposed to quantity ones and build myself from there. And I haven't really looked back since from that point.
Yeah. But I really appreciate your transparency because this is true entrepreneurship. Dealing with
Oh
this sort
yeah.
of questions and these sort of challenges. That's definitely a part of the game here. But also
Mhm.
what I would like to do now, Stephen, is think about the future because obviously even just based on a 15, 20-minute conversation, it's quite obvious how much passion you have for what you do and how you're really driven by the impact on those people. And I'm pretty sure that in the future you're still want to gonna grow and scale and impact even a lot more lives, right? So when it comes to this, and especially considering the model that you have in place in is basically one-on-one, I'm curious, what is your idea of scaling? There's a couple different alternatives, maybe hiring other coaches, working with your methodologies, maybe doing something on a group basis. What is your idea of scaling in the future?
Mhm. So it's a very fine balance with coaching and personal training because I've done like the big box gym model where I was working like 50, 60 hours a week. You're doing like back-to-back appointments all day. And what happens with that is you're just overworked. You can't really provide a good level of service to those level of clients. So you have to put a cap and boundary to how much of that level of one-on-one work that you do. So at this point, I try to keep my in-person appointment stuff I have at the gym to like 15 to 20 appointments a week. Even then, that's probably still a little high. And the rest of the work is strictly online. And with that, that's more so just like the one-on-ones, the one-on-one support rather, as opposed to like having specific sessions with people. And so I found a decent balance where I can provide a high level of service for that group of clients in the way that it is. But scaling wise, again, there's only so many people in person you could take and see them 2 or 3 times a week. So at that point, I feel like I've already capped that out. And so scaling
Hmm.
further is more so through essentially two ways to do it. I see in my mind is to scale the online side of things where you can obviously there's fewer touch points, there's fewer overall or less overall time investment per client because you're not having those hour-long sessions with them. So you can scale that like that. I could see myself taking on another like 15 to 20 clients and being able to do that reasonably well. At that point, though, to scale further, I would have to do one of two things. Probably the most likely one is to hire other coaches and have now, Strumos Fitness and the Pain Free Project, which is my signature program, have that be like the brand and have other coaches working under it and now servicing those clients with the systems that I've put in place. For my own business. But the hardest part I see with that, and again being fully transparent and honest, is relinquishing some of that control to be like, okay, I know
Hmm.
what level of service is required for this type of work, making sure that I have people that I trust that I know for sure can enact that level of service. But that's what it would take to scale and grow further.
Absolutely. Again, I do appreciate the transparency because this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. And yes, absolutely. When it comes to this, it's quite hard to create something on a group side when it comes to your specific project and industry. Maybe there would be an option to do something more so like educational based, where you could
Yeah.
maybe just provide the clients with the necessary information to really do something about their situation, right? But this is just me thinking out loud. I'm getting carried away as always. But um Stephen, before we wrap it up, I also want to ask you my favorite question ever. Considering you've been in business for quite some time now, if you could travel back in time and really speak to yourself at the very beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, it's interesting. If I went back in time, it's weird. Like people ask me too sometimes, like, oh, if you knew what you knew now and you could like avoid the back injury and stuff like that, what would you do it? I'm like, well, probably not, honestly, because me having lived through that like gives me that experience to relate to people more. So I would still try to go through that all all through. But the piece of advice I would give myself is just to focus on the client care and not so much on like building up from a sales perspective or just trying to reach a bunch of people and ignoring like the work of the people that you're working with because there's certain times where I was growing where you start to focus so much more on acquiring new clients and it's much easier to hold a client you do have than it is to acquire new clients and again building off that referral system that I have now like most of your business comes from treating those people really well so the advice I give is don't look so far to the outside as a necessity to build your business. Like it's usually right there in front of you. So don't ignore what the good stuff that you have going.
I love it. Well, Stephen, I want to say thank you for taking the time today, sharing this story with me and the audience. I really appreciate your time. And if anybody from the listeners wanted to reach out, get in touch with you, maybe even work with you, what is the best way to go about it?
Yeah, the two easiest places to find me are one are on my website, which is strumosfitness.com, and the other is on Instagram at Coach Strumos.
Love it. Thank you again, man. Appreciate your time. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency, and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from zero to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.